Welcome to Amend Healthcare. Many clients who walk through our doors arrive carrying hidden histories of trauma. As behavioral health professionals, you hold a dual responsibility. You have a clinical duty to guide clients through the healing process, and a strict legal duty to protect them from further harm. Looking at the dense layers of California state reporting mandates can feel like opening a box of flat-pack furniture without a manual. The sheer number of legal codes, forms, and strict deadlines looks overwhelming and highly stressful to piece together. But you do not need to memorize state legal codes to do your job. We have a clear 5-step roadmap that removes the guesswork from protecting the vulnerable people in our care. Step 1 begins before any formal assessment. It relies entirely on your active observation. We monitor for 3 categories of red flags: physical indicators, behavioral changes, and signs of exploitation. In practice, this looks like a client arriving with an unexplained burn, suddenly becoming withdrawn when a specific visitor enters the room, or mentioning that a new friend is controlling their ATM card. When you see these indicators, note them, but avoid jumping to immediate conclusions. A bruise might have a medical explanation, and quiet withdrawal might be culturally appropriate restraint. These signs simply trigger a closer look by the clinical team. Step 2 moves from passive observation to active engagement. Amend uses a formal mandatory screening process, so we don't have to rely on visual clues alone. This timeline tracks the early days at Amend. The PCLC trauma screen is administered within 3 days or 5 for detox. Simultaneously, a biopsychosocial assessment is completed within 72 hours. A PCLC score of 30 triggers immediate trauma-specific treatment objectives. There is one major clinical mistake to avoid during this phase. Do not force a trauma screen on a client who is actively withdrawing from substances. A sedated or acutely withdrawing client cannot provide reliable answers, so pace your assessments carefully. Combining daily, careful observation with these perfectly timed screening tools gives our clients a solid foundation of psychological safety as they begin treatment. Step 3 dictates exactly how to react in the moment a client breaks down and discloses abuse to you. It is easy to fall into the detective trap during these high-stress conversations. Do not interrogate the client, do not press for details, and do not promise absolute confidentiality, because California law places strict limits on what you can keep secret. Instead, prioritize safety. Your immediate job is to sit down next to the distressed client, secure the environment, and call for help. Every staff member follows the same response protocol for these disclosures. Stay with the client and tell clinical staff now. Abandoning the urge to investigate the claim allows you to focus entirely on physical presence. That immediate, supportive presence prevents the client from experiencing re-traumatization during a highly vulnerable moment. Step 4 is mandated reporting. Under California law, reasonable suspicion is the only threshold required to act. You do not need absolute proof to make a call. Avoid the delegation trap. While you might want to hand this stressful task off to your supervisor, the legal mandate is personal. If you observe the suspicion, you make the call. You cannot pass the phone to someone else. This flowchart outlines reporting paths. For minors, an incident triggers an immediate call to Child Protective Services and a written form within 36 hours. For elders and dependent adults, call Adult Protective Services immediately, but you have 2 working days to submit the form. Navigating these distinct rules can cause anxiety, but our overarching policy at Amend is straightforward. Over-report, never under-report. Making this personal phone call is a legally protected act of advocacy that connects a vulnerable client to the help they need. Step 5 is documenting the facts of the disclosure or your observation securely within the client's electronic medical record. This EMR interface shows the difference between a fact and a conclusion. An observation like 3-centimeter bruise on left forearm is objective and correct. Writing, "Client is clearly being financially abused," is a subjective conclusion, which you must avoid. Beyond the medical record, every suspected case requires an internal incident report. You must submit this to the compliance designee within 24 hours. There is one strict exception to this internal routing rule. If your allegation implicates the clinical director, you must send your report directly to Amend's governing body, bypassing the implicated person entirely. Precise, objective documentation removes emotion from the legal record. Writing exactly what you see and hear is the mechanism that turns an initial suspicion into an actionable, legally sound protective barrier for the client. Those are the 5 steps. Spot the signs through observation, screen or on chime, stay and tell clinical staff immediately, make the mandated call yourself, and document only the objective facts. Remember that reasonable suspicion is enough to begin this process. At Amend Healthcare, every staff member is personally responsible for taking action when they see it. If you or your client need immediate crisis support, these national resources are always available. You can rely on the National Domestic Violence Hotline and the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. By understanding and executing these 5 steps, you become the crucial frontline defender keeping the Amend community safe.